So phosphorus, if you like, is a big surprise to me as a biologist, why it has not come up higher onto the sustainable development agenda. For some reason, phosphorus, the reserves on phosphorus have never been well publicized and never been understood well by policymakers or research institutes. Many of the global NGOs have not seen this as an issue either. And I think it's partially because the reserve data for minerals, generally speaking, are very well known by only a small group of specialists within the industry, within the mining industry. And this is not generally published. Well, I mean, first there's a distraction within the it's not the mining industry, it's the way the industry is set up. There's a, if you like, an extraction component. There's a mining component, an extraction component, and by the time you get down to the fertilizer, they're more interested in making sure there's good distribution systems and that there's the fertilizer system is not just phosphorus. It's a mixed product. It's nitrogen, phosphorus, it's potassium. So phosphorus is actually it's the smallest part of that mixture. So when it comes down to tons, and it's not a determinant in the price yet. It's also because it's steered very much by a small number of countries. Phosphorus extraction is dominated right now by the United States, but there are only about 3 or 4 major sources of phosphorus. And these are the United States, not being the largest one. They are, I think, third. The first one is Morocco, West Sahara. The second one is China. And then you have United States and South Africa. Another distraction in this whole debate is that for many, many years, phosphorus has been called the source of eutrophication, the overloading of water bodies. So everyone thinks that there's too much phosphorus, and we have to cut back on it. So it would be difficult from a naive point of view to try to tell an environmentalist that we have too little phosphorus. Most limnologists and most aquatic specialists, they will tell you there's too much phosphorus being released. And that is true from the cities and also from agriculture for runoff. And that has to do with the fact that we are wasting it. I think the agricultural community is not focused on resource management the way the energy sector has, the way the climate has affected the energy sector. Agriculture is still in a, if you like, a boom attitude. And it's very important that they produce more and more food. And the motor in producing more food is more nutrients, and they are as cheap as possible. So we don't have today a regulated fertilizer industry that is connected to, if you like, a sustainable development policy. But if you look at the total picture, the total systems picture, we have about 30 years of cheap phosphorus left in the United States Reserve at their rate of extraction today. And we have maybe in all about 130 years left if we look at it conservatively, looking at the Moroccan and Chinese reserves. Yeah, ecological sanitation is if you like, a solution for trying to recycle phosphate from fecal material, from urine, and also from organic materials from the household. And the need to recycle will increase as the phosphate prices increase and the price of food increases. So, okay, 30 years of cheap phosphorus left in the United States. It means within 10 or 20 years there'll be, if you like, a reaction that will be very intense. And some of the people are writing today that it may shift the global economy from the fossil fuel one that we have today to one that's just based on food prices. Those of the countries that can afford the high prices will keep the food that they have. Those of the countries that can't pay for that food will have to recycle and they will have to extract the phosphate that they have in their own countries somehow. Very expensive process. There's very, very little organic agriculture. There's subsistence farming, where people are recycling using, if you like, ecological methods. These are not the methods that are feeding the masses. We are using artificial fertilizer from extracting it from mineral sources, and of course in the case of nitrogen we are producing it from using fossil fuel systems and extracting from the atmosphere. Yeah, I think the big revolution will probably not be in ecological sanitation. I think that's a relatively small component of the present recoverable sources for recycling. The big one will be eco-agriculture. That's where we're losing most of our phosphate in the agricultural system. The little that gets into food and that gets into our bodies is being excreted and then being disposed of in most of the cities of the world through water systems. Yes, it will shift back from a water-based sanitation system to a dry or water-less sanitation system, so we can recover all of these materials, and we will go into source separation, and the value of things like urine and feces will increase very much. Yeah, and the scenario is a bad one when you look at the increased meat consumption in the richer parts of the poor countries. In the rich part of the world there is already a transformation, so we are using very inefficient methods to feed people by first growing a lot of wheat and then feeding it to animals, and then consuming the meat. The carbohydrate efficiency is very low there. The protein efficiency is very low there. But the scary thing is the very fast transformation, for example, in Asia, of the increase of consumption of meat. So it means an even less efficient use of these nutrients. And if you like, the vegetarian societies are the ones that will be better equipped. The societies that can recycle, that don't have advanced ecological, they may not have the agricultural systems that are industrialized, and that they have some kind of ecological linkage still. Those countries have a good chance to make reforms. But I think we're locked in the West and the North, and our lifestyle is such that the transformation will be a very uncomfortable one if we have to change our food because we can't afford the meat, and some people won't like to just go all the way to fish. We can't feed the whole world using fish proteins. So there's a lot of lifestyle changes which we're not ready for. So the rich countries of the world may not be so rich if they don't have cheap phosphate. And it could be the developing world is better equipped to recycle because they don't have these expensive sewage systems that we have. I think it will change the priorities of how we set up our cities. And I don't think we're prepared for this shift at all. So the crisis is just around the corner, and it's just a matter of opening up the debate. And why it hasn't started yet, I really don't know. I think it's up to a few individuals to introduce it to the policy arena, and it will take off.